L'economia dei paesi emergenti cambia rapidamente e la biotecnologia deve essere volta ad uno sviluppo sostenibile dell'agricoltura. Punti di vista di paesi diversi si incontrano e confrontano al convegno organizzato dall'ICABR a Villa Mondragone.
Agriculture is disappearing from Indian landscape. The growth in agriculture is very slowly. What's the situation?
Can you come again? Is that for India or for the world?
For India, principally.
Yeah, India has had a problem with extremely rapidly economic growth. Nobody can quite understand why agricultural growth is still only about 3% per year. That's one of the greatest puzzles which we still have not answered.
And what about other economies?
The other fast-growing Asian economies have faster agricultural growth. Agricultural growth has accelerated significantly in Latin America, and it also has significantly accelerated in Africa. But in Africa, it's still relatively low compared to what the needs are.
Rural and urban poverty have converged in India. Why?
Rural and urban poverty have converged in India because the urban economy is not able to absorb large masses of unskilled workers into productive jobs. That's the first reason. And second, instead what has happened is job opportunities for semi-skilled people, especially men, young men, have massively expanded in the rural non-farm economy.
Dall'India si passa all'Africa, ma punto fermo rimane l'attenzione alla biodiversità. C'è bisogno di soluzioni su misura per ogni luogo e ogni situazione socio-economica, affinché la crescita agricola possa incidere sullo sviluppo e ridurre la povertà.
We can see in Africa new challenges like hungry, growing population, climate change. How can agriculture meet these challenges?
Well, there has to be, first of all, a greater investment in agriculture. The investment has decreased almost fivefold in ODA, the Overseas Development Aid, from 1980, where 17% of ODA was invested in agriculture, has dropped to 2.9% in 2006. That has to be reversed. We have to invest in research that will address the real problems of the poorest people, not just about producing more food at a global level, but producing more food by and for the people that are the poorest and that often live in marginal areas. That is a major shift from what we have today.
It's clear today that one size doesn't fit all. How can agricultural biodiversity give a solution?
Actually, agricultural biodiversity is a prerequisite for any type of progress in this area. First of all, and that has been done traditionally, genetic improvement has been the use of diversity to gain higher productivity, but also resistance to pests and diseases. But that alone is not sufficient. We have to adapt to climate change, and one of the most important factors that we already see today is greater variability in climate. So the poorest farmers that have no reserves, they cannot afford to have a total failure of a harvest. So they cannot have planted on large areas genetically uniform modern varieties alone, because that puts them at risk of losing everything if there is a high temperature at a particular time when the crop is flowering, for example. So we must help farmers to intensify their production by making better use of a larger diversity. And this is taking a different approach from what has been done so far.
What can agriculture and biotechnology do for development and poverty reduction?
Well, it's obvious the link between agriculture and poverty reduction. I mean, it has been proven in many studies that the biggest impact on poverty is on it comes from agricultural growth. Of course, then it's one of the stages of growth. It's one of the stages of development, but it's an undeniable the role of agriculture on growth.
What's new in global strategies to improve agriculture?
Well, as I was mentioning before, there's a new initiative, a relatively new initiative, the Global Strategy to Improve Agriculture and Rural Statistics. And in many ways, it brings a shift in paradigm. So there's a lot of new thinking in the way we need to think about agriculture. Agriculture not in isolation, but linked to non-farm activities, to think about the rural space in a more cohesive way, and because the small farmers are involved in many other activities. So in order to understand agriculture, we need to understand all other aspects and dimension of people's livelihood in rural areas.